Hello and welcome to Westbridge Model Railway, and this video which marks the 1-year anniversary of Westbridge as the model railway layout. So I thought for this video we take a look back and see how 1 year ago the room looked like this, whereas now it looks like this. So stay tuned, we'll have a quick recap of how I got to where I am today. We'll have a nice running session and then we'll talk about where I'm going next. So whether you're interested in model railways or the real thing, you'll find plenty of videos on my YouTube channel going right back from the 1980s up to present day. So it'd be great if you could just take a moment to click the subscribe button down there, and also if you'd like the notification bell, that way you'll get updates of all my latest uploads. Right, moving on. Obviously time and money were a big factor in this model railway, as it is with most model railways. But what did it actually take to get from where I started 12 months ago to where I am now? Well, each of the videos I've made are available on my YouTube channel here, of course. There is a separate playlist for my model railway layout journey. But let's go right back to where it all started 12 months ago. So episode 1 was called The Beginning, and that's where my journey again started here. So I basically just briefed you in that on where I'd come before for model railway layouts, what I'd currently got just to start off, and where my plans were going. Episode 2 was the whole DC versus DCC debate, which way should I go? And thanks to all your comments, that helped me decide, and I did obviously ultimately go for the DCC option. And also I was looking for a name for the layout as well, which is something else you helped me with. And after that we came up with the name Westbridge. So episode 3 took us to actually my first DCC running and the purchase of the NCC power cab. So that just was basically how easy it is to set up that from scratch with just a little bit of test track and loop I'd got in place then. Episode 4 covered wiring, which was something quite a bit different for me, not something I'd really got into much before, with Dad having done previous layouts I'd had, but this being completely different because of going DCC. That obviously involved bus wires, droppers and Scotch lock clips for that. So episode 4 covered my first attempts at that. Episode 5 looked at track lane and some little hints and tips I'd picked up on how to make things a little bit easier in doing that. And of course the track lane would be slightly different because that was partly related to bus wires and where brakes and things were going in for the various sections. By episode 6 we'd now got something a bit more of a layout going, so I'd got a bus wire going around the layout now, and that basically covered how I was putting that in, where I was putting the various droppers in and the Scotch lock clips that I decided to use for connecting and how effective they were. Episode 7, and I'd now purchased the DCC Concepts Aegis system, which I'd paired with my NCC power cab. So I'd now got full control of the whole layout, separate programming tracks, and it was a look at that system, which is a very good system indeed, I found. Episode 8 focused on the little heritage branch that I've got, So it's basically my plans, track laying and wiring for that very short section, but quite an important part where I'll be running my heritage steam and diesel locos, but so they can also access the main line as well. Episode 9 focused on the depot and stabling sidings that were housing some of my many locos. Episode 10, and with most of the layout now actually laid, it was time for a good running session. So that was a chance to look at some of the locos and stock I've got. And then episode 11 took us right up to date with the engineer's yard and how I'd laid the track and done the wiring slightly different for that using the electrofrog points so that it would work better with my Class 08 shunting around there. So what was the idea behind doing these model railway videos as opposed to my regular videos out on the main line? Well, there's lots of videos on YouTube, obviously, as you may know, that cover model railways, and I've watched a lot of those myself and picked up lots of useful ideas and tips, particularly from channels like Chadwick Model Railway, New Junction and Great Dalton. So I never intended to compete with any of those. They're on a much different level to me anyway. So this was basically, apart from documenting my journey and how things were changing on the layout, just to give you an idea of what you could do in a relatively small space and just to have a go yourself, even if you've sort of never really got into the whole wiring, track laying and everything else. So it was more of like a basic guide, and hopefully it's been useful to you for that. So what's next? Well, as I mentioned before, the only real bit left to do track laying wise is the turntable area and associated sidings and depot for the heritage line. Once that's done, barring any sort of last minute changes, and I still am tweaking a few sections on the layout, just want to make sure that everything runs smoothly, all the wiring's good, we don't have any derailment, so a lot of running with different locos, wagons and coach combinations just to make sure that there's no real problems anywhere. And then obviously once we get past that stage, then the real work starts to begin then on all the actual detailing of the layout. Now, one thing which appealed to me when doing the model railway layout, as apart from something I could work towards and I'd obviously have a layout where I could run locos on, was just the whole work involved in it. So you have to be a little bit of everything when you're doing this by yourself. So you have to be a little bit of an electrician, a little bit of an artist, a little bit of a model maker. There's lots of different elements required to get to this. So even when the whole track and everything is down, I've then got to start learning again about what's the best way to do ballasting and building tunnels and modelling the station, weathering wagons. There's just so many different elements to the model railway. It's something that can certainly keep you occupied and keep you busy for a long time, and hopefully that's the plan. Anyway, I think I've waffled on long enough for now, so how about I turn the camera around and let you have a look at some trains running. hopefully you enjoyed that marathon running session there. Give you a chance to look at some of the locos and stock that I've got, which cover different areas that I'm modelling. There's still quite a few other locos and various bits of carriages and wagons you haven't seen yet, but they'll come up in future videos. So what's next then for the coming year, shall we say? Well, as I mentioned, there's still a few little bits of track work I need to finish off, principally the turntable and shed area around the heritage line, and there's a few other changes I need to make where things aren't quite how I want them on the main layout itself, so there'll be little jobs like that to do, but then it will be moving on to the scenery, so a completely different discipline there, part of the model railway, something else which I've done a little bit of, but again I should be learning and trying a few new things out. And then of course there's all the other little things to do, like probably some weathering of wagons and coaches, especially with the coaches, probably painting or fitting seats to the interiors, just all the little things to gradually bring everything on and make everything look a bit better and a bit more realistic. So plenty to keep going over the coming months and indeed years. So that about covers things for this video. The next one I do will be more of a regular update, which will cover work I've been doing on the layout during basically July and August. So look out for that. Early September that'll be uploaded. But in the meantime, I'll say thanks for watching once more. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.